my my neighbors must think that I'm absolutely crazy because a lot of times I'm, well, number one, I look like I do and I'm living next to them. That could be it. But also, sometimes I'm just laughing to myself. This morning I woke up and it was very early. It was like 5 o'clock this morning. It was about 4:45 actually. And I woke up and I thought, man, I'm just going to get up. I'm going to go downstairs for a little bit. And then I hear the little jingle jangle. And what the little jingle jangle is we put a bell on Ziggy from when he was a little puppy. And now he's about 6 months old, but he still acts like he's just an infant. And this guy has more energy in the world than anything that I've ever experienced. Well, I thought, well, he's down here. I should probably take him outside so he doesn't pee on the floor again. Then I don't have to stuff his face in it so he won't poop on the floor while he's looking me in the face because he's gangster like that. So I took him outside, and right before I was about to walk out, I was like, I don't think I need a leash. You know what I mean? It's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's dark outside. There's probably not anyone out there. So I walk out, and sure enough, right as I walk out, I look over, and my neighbor is walking out. His name is Brett, and God love you, Brett. I love you. I'm sorry. But Ziggy just heads right for him and just jumps up and dive bombs him right like in the place where a boy or a guy would not like to get dive bombed. And Ziggy is bouncing off him, and he's very gently and calmly but firmly pushing Ziggy away. And I had just learned some information the other day. My wife was like, hey, I just want to let you know that Bodie, which is Brett's dog of 15 years, had just passed away. And so as my dog is dive bombing Brett in the crotch, very uncomfortable for me. And I'm apologizing. I'm sorry I didn't have the leash, whatever it is. I wanted to address the elephant in the room. And what it was I just wanted to tell him, hey, man, I'm sorry, my condolences. There's nothing you could say when someone has a loss like that. But I said, there's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to make it any better. But I do want to tell you that I'm thinking about you and that I'm praying about you or praying for you and your family. And he's like, oh, man, he gave us 15 good years. And I was thinking in that moment, like, here I am stressed about my puppy that is off the leash and dive bombing Brett. But most likely Brett would like a couple of minutes back, even if the dog was acting up with his dog. So my storm that I was having, he would gladly take a few of the raindrops that are in my storm or, in my head for the dry land that he was dealing with at the time. And it helped me to realize that a lot of times the biggest messes that we ever have in our life are the message that somebody else needs to be able to get them through the day. And little did I know that Ziggy, being Ziggy and having all that energy, was going to bring a valuable lesson today, I hope. But when I sat down and read Proverbs 21, it was just to help us adjust our perspective and see it from someone else's angle, because our worst nightmare is somebody else's dream. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Big shout out to Big Rob, my brother. He got me this shirt, Run DMC. I was so happy he got it at a record store. I stopped through and got a chance to see him. I think it was a week and a half ago, last week or somewhere around there. And him and his son had gone to the record store and he bought me this. Luckily, he got an extra large too, because, it made me feel like, wow, it was great. So I want to tell you how much I appreciate you. It makes my heart sing that I get a chance to be back in the studio. I was out for a couple of days. I did a keynote in where was it? In Scottsdale, Arizona for the Your Legacy Summit with Harper Ellis Hair Company. And then I've been kind of out of pocket. I went to Las Vegas the other day and just for the day. But it's my honor to be here with you guys, and especially to do episodes of Inchstones. I just got off a podcast literally 2 minutes ago. If you didn't get a chance to be able to check it out, Elisa Doctor. Incredible young lady, worked with the Miami Dolphins, worked with the Miami Heat, worked with FanDuel, is now working with the MGM. But it's not just about her work, it's how she got the work. And she only applied for one job in her whole entire life, and the rest of it was based off relationships and doing the work in the dark that when the light started to shine on her, that she was prepared for it. And so it was incredible. This is an episode, if this is the first time you're tuning in, it's an episode of Inchstones, and I started this January 6th. And to put it in perspective, a busy podcaster does 52 episodes in a year. Since January 6th, we've done over, it's crazy to think about it. We've done over 240. 242 actually with today's episode. So just to put it in perspective, and the reason why is because I'm so passionate about this. We do the corresponding proverb, corresponding day, and I read the proverb. Like today is Proverbs 21. It's the 21st. It's the day after my oldest brother's birthday. Happy birthday, guy, late. I texted him this morning, and so I'm a bad brother. But it's amazing how God works, because he wrote this, 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, and it applies to today in so many different areas. And so, this experience with Ziggy this morning was pretty crazy. Like, I was tense, I was frustrated. I was like, man, my dog just got in the dewy grass. Now he's dive bombing my neighbor. But it was amazing to see, like, when you look at things from a different perspective, I could be dealing with the biggest challenge in my life, but that could be somebody else's dream to be able to deal with that. And the same thing, so perspective, it's not the circumstances shifting, it's just the perspective. But God, through Proverbs 21 today brings a ton of wisdom, which is amazing. So we do these episodes every day, or mostly every day if I'm not out of town, and we do that, and I just appreciate you tuning in. So thank you. Make sure you comment, ask questions, anything like that, and share it with all your friends. So let's get into Proverbs 21. The first part of it in verse 1 and 2. From God's point of view, everything is fresh and moving in the right direction. And when I wrote this out, as God started to speak to me this morning through Proverbs 21, and that's in verse 1 and 2, from God's point of view, everything is fresh and moving in the right direction. I wanted to question him on this. I was like, look, there's some times where I don't like where it's moving. I don't think it's fresh. It's kind of stale in my life right now. And God is saying, like, it's fresh for where I need it to be. I'm moving at the pace that I need it to go at, and it's always moving in the right direction. And it's nice because when we see it from his perspective, right, from his point of view, it's always going that way. It's always fresh. It's always going in the right direction. And so when you're with him, you're on the right track. And I want to encourage every one of you that you're on the right track. This one hit hard because it's in verse 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, and 27. Which, when things get repeated like that in verses, what I notice is that it's very, very, very important, and that God wants to drive home that point. And I've been studying the Proverbs for 30 years, right? Corresponding proverb, corresponding days, 31 days in a month, 31 proverbs in the book of Proverbs. Sometimes there's 30 days in the month, some days there's 28, but you get the point. But in all of my studying of this over 30 years, I've never read it the way that I read it today, because my circumstances are different. When you read the word, then the word will start to read you. And it read me this morning. And watch this. In verse 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, and 27. It's a lot of verses. It said the same thing, or overarching. Obedience is more valuable than sacrifice. Let me say it again. Obedience is more valuable than sacrifice. And this was tough. And I started to think back to my mom. Like, my mom said, whatever starts out right ends up right. But a lot of times I would be like, I don't care how it starts out. I just care how it ends up. Because, Mom, if I start it off and it's kind of, iffy, but it gets a great result, then I can do so much good with it. But what God is saying is, I want it to start out right. I don't want your sacrifice. I just want your obedience. And that hit me hard because there's so many times where a person would be like, well, and I used to be this way. When I say a person, it's me. That's who it is. Me, this guy. I would say, oh, Rob, I'm doing this for my family. And, I say that to my brother and he'd be like, no, you're not. You're doing it for you. And I was like, well, wait a second. I'm going and I'm leaving my family and I'm spending this time away and doing all this stuff because someday, and he said, if you were truly doing it for your family, you would figure out a way to be able to do it from home and still be able to spend a lot of time with your family. Shift perspective a little bit, right? And so your obedience is more valuable than your sacrifice. God is not okay. Like he doesn't need you to go out and sacrifice your integrity to go get a lot of things so then you could turn around and do good with that thing that was built on something that was unstable. Obedience is more valuable than sacrifice. In verse 4, 10, 11, 16, 20, and 24, that's quite a few verses too, and this was quite important. He just had me write out 2 + 2 = 4. There's never a time where 2 + 2 equals anything else before. So when you do take this and you add this, you'll always get this answer. 2 + 2 = 4. Now that's not always in life, but what he was saying is this, and he said, wandering eyes plus pride and not working your land equals silliness. So if you want to get silliness, have wandering eyes, pride, and don't work your land. You'll always get a product of silliness. And that's in verse 4, 10, 11, 16, 20, and 24, which kind of drove it home. In verse 5 and 12, diligence equals profit. Haste equals poverty. It was so direct, right? And so when I looked at it from that perspective, diligence, doing right work, equals profit. Haste, impatient, I'm going to raise both hands on this one, equals poverty. It's not sustainable. Haste is not sustainable. In verse 13, 25, 26, you will be the beneficiary of your own generosity or lack thereof. Man, I didn't like this verse either. I didn't like the way it said it. I didn't like its tone. I felt like this thing was judging me while I read verse 13, 25, and 26. You will be the beneficiary of your own generosity or lack thereof. Meaning you'll always run into yourself. You're always going to get to a point where you run into yourself. So if you're a D to a bunch of people, you're going to run into some people that are not that nice to you. If you're generous, you're going to run into people who are generous. If you're do right in business and do right in relationships, you're going to run into people at some point. It's not like a tit for tat, but ultimately you're going to end up running into yourself. And if you're a leader who is constantly overbearing, like really drilling down on people and for no good reason, at some point, someone's going to do that to you. I promise you. My mom told me that principle from a very early age, and I was like, yeah, whatever, Mom. It ain't going to catch up with me. But it does. In verse 21 and 23, you will know the tree by its fruit. We've all heard this. And the tree will be determined by the seed. What seeds are you planting? You see, I always heard you will know the tree by its fruit. That's something that your parents will tell you all the things, and I'll be like, yeah, whatever. But you can always tell the tree, or the tree will be determined by the seed. And once we understand that the only person in our life that can plant seeds in our life is ourselves, then we ask ourselves, what type of seed are we planting? Now, some people will tell me, no, somebody, my uncle, my aunt, my parents, they planted this type of seed in me because they did X. And I would challenge that and say that it wasn't what happened. It was the way in which we reacted that actually planted the seed. So if you see something that's growing in your life right now and you don't like the fruit of the tree that's there, realize that that tree came from a seed, and that seed was planted by you. So what seeds are you planting? How are you seeking them out? And where are you getting your seeds? What's the quality of the seeds? And I tell you, if you seek wisdom, wisdom will give you good seed. Why? Because the wisdom comes from the fear of God. And the fear of God means the respect of God, meaning that you just spend time with him and you find out that his words and his actions are in line. And when that happens, then you respect it. And when you respect him, he'll give you wisdom. And if you go to wisdom to find your seeds, you'll be planting the type of seeds that are right in your life at that time, right? Here we go. In verse 22 and 30, and I circled 30, wisdom is the ultimate cheat code. I have to reach over, and I want to go to the word on this one because I circled it. And this is a really impactful verse, is verse 30. And if you're reading Proverbs 21, I would go to it, and I would just say, like, check out Proverbs 30 or Proverbs 21, verse 30. I outlined this. I got to get my glasses because that's where we're at in life. I'm going to grab my glasses real quick because I want to read this to you. So I'm going to go to Proverbs 21, verse 30. I was actually on the page. So in verse 30, it said, there is no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord. Wisdom is the ultimate cheat code. There's no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord. Well, some people think, well, I'll go and get wisdom. But really, when you go and get wisdom, wisdom comes from the fear of God. So if you're spending time with him, there's nothing. There is nothing. There is no wisdom. There is no insight and no plan that can succeed against him. So when you have him on your side and you use him as your perspective, things have the tendency to change and shift. It'll always be fresh. It'll always be moving in the right direction, but it won't be on your time always. So in verse 28 and 29, this is a hard thing, and I'm going to do it right now. Take a breath, and things will look different. When you take a breath, sometimes your speech slows down. I remember when I first got on the podcast and I started doing these Inchstones, I was like, man, I need to rapid fire every single word, and sometimes I still do. But I tell you, when I take a breath, the same circumstances look a little bit different. The actions of my kids look a little bit different. Me taking a breath, honestly, I'm very fortunate because I have my brother Rob. I call him and he almost makes me take a breath every single time that I talk with him because he's not in a hurry for anything. He is the best at what he does. He's precise, and that precision beats speed all day, but also he adds speed to his precision, which is undefeated. And so he can hit. He does exactly what he needs to do. He locks into it because he's taken a breath and slowed it down. Your life will look different when you do. And finally, in verse 31, prepare. All these things that we talk about, prepare, but also let God work. There's amazing things that can happen when you have the right method, but the magic is always in the moment. And God will bring different situations. He brought that thing to me this morning, like, God, how are you going to bring me a lesson at 5 o'clock in the morning when I don't want to be up, when it's cold outside, when I have shorts on that I shouldn't have on, I have some flip-flops on that I go out, my dog doesn't have a leash, and you're going to help me to experience your love, your wisdom through my dog, Ziggy, dive bombing and then speed bagging somebody's crotch. How can you do that? Well, he helped me to realize that because this guy who was getting assaulted by Ziggy this morning, and he was so calm with it, had a dog named Bodie for 15 years, and the dog had just passed away. So my stress, my storm, that mess that was happening in my head, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. My neighbor was looking at it, and I could tell, he didn't tell me this, but I could tell that he was thinking, man, if I could just have a couple more minutes back with Bodie, I wouldn't care if he pooped on the floor, if he peed on the floor, if he ate some underwear or did whatever he was doing that Ziggy does. I would just like to be able to see him again. your craziest nightmare is somebody else's dream. But while we're living inside of it, it's very tough to be able to see that. So sometimes we need to take a breath, step out of it, and realize that point. And today, even as crazy as my little dog is, I thanked God for him this morning. And, although I questioned that right afterwards after he was acting a fool. But it's amazing because God has you exactly where he needs you to be in the exact right time. And if he needed you someplace else, he'd have you there. I want to encourage every single one of you right now that's listening. And there's somebody out there that has a friend that needs to hear this message. And what I would say is share this with them. Comment on it. Send me a comment, a question, whatever it is. I want to thank you all for tuning in to Inchstones. Make sure you check out Lisa Doctor. She was the last episode that I just had on, and the Vibe Room will be coming soon. My name is Kelly Cardenas. I am so appreciative. My heart is full for being able to be here with you guys and be able to share this with you. I'm going to be in Nashville, Tennessee tomorrow, actually on Saturday, with James Dixon, Larry Namer, the founder of E-Entertainment Network. We're going to be doing something that's going to be benefiting amputees and veterans there, which is going to be amazing. So if you're in the area, it's at the Keystone Resort. It's going to be absolutely amazing. But I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me be myself. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul, baby.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised.